Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dr. Doctor, the show where no topic is too hot or too cold. Whether it's politics, religion, relationships, entertainment, or everyday life, you will be hearing from the experts. This show is not for the faint of heart or the faint of mind. But if you want to be inspired, you have come to the right place. And now, prepare to be enlightened as we introduce the host of Dr. Doctor, Dr. Peter Tassi, and his close advisor, Dr. Fooch.
Welcome once again to Dr. Doctor. Unfortunately, Dr. Fooch isn't with us again today, but I'm here, yours truly, to speak to you about a very important topic, I think, and something I've always wrestled with throughout my life, to understand the meaning of it and to live it, and I've certainly wrestled with that. The topic is integrity. It's a complicated concept, but it's critical to living the happy life. And you've heard me talk about happiness before and the elements to finding true happiness. Integrity is certainly a part of that. I remember when I was young, my father said to me, "Son, be willing to compromise all things in life except your integrity." I was a young teenager. He had so many pearls of wisdom that he gave to me throughout my life, but I didn't really fully understand it, and I didn't even know why he said it to me. It could have been because maybe it was one of those times he thought as a young kid I compromised my integrity, or maybe it was just one of those pearls of wisdom of many that he decided to bestow upon me that day. Son, be willing to compromise all things in life except your integrity. Well, the years go by, we get older, we live our life, and we begin to ponder back into our past and the things that our parents said to us that are real treasures, and reflect on them and try to come to a full understanding of them. So, integrity. I tried to take that pearl of wisdom seriously in my life and live it, but certainly I haven't always lived up to that. I remember when I was in my late 20s, I decided that I wanted to be a doctor. And at that time, I was a teacher in education, and I always thought of being a doctor, actually, since I was a teenager. And like all of us, we have many career aspirations. We think of many things, but that was something that was always in the back of my mind. So I applied to med school, and I managed to get an interview. There's about 4,000 to 5,000 applicants back then. Of those 4,000 to 5,000 applicants, they interview 400, and of those 400, they choose 100. Now, at that time, like I said, I was a teacher. I was in my late 20s. I was a department head of religious studies, family life, and sociology, 3 departments. And so teaching in a Catholic school, a secondary school. So when I went for the interview, I was so happy to go for this interview, and I thought, wow, this is my chance. And by then, by 28, 29 years old, I already had 3 children, but I had figured out a way that I could finance it and make it possible. So I went to the interview, and the interview is 1 hour. They do a couple things. They have a group session where you discuss amongst each other issues or ethical questions. The second part is just an interview, one on 3 doctors and yourself. They interview you. Of the 1 hour interview, they spent between 20 and 30 minutes. It's hard to calculate because it's almost like time stops in those high-stress situations. But I would say it was at least 20 minutes they spent on this whole issue that I was a Catholic, that I was a department head of religious studies in a Catholic school, that my upbringing was very Catholic, that a lot of my volunteer work, charity work, and work outside of education had to do with the Catholic Church and the Catholic community. And so they would ask me if they asked me if I would perform an abortion and what I thought about the whole abortion issue and pro-life. And so I was actually taken back. I didn't expect a question like that. But I do recall saying to them that no, I wouldn't perform an abortion. And but if I was a family doctor, although my aspiration wasn't to be a family doctor, I wanted to get into med school, get my diploma to be a family doctor, but my real intention was to go beyond that, and I wanted to study leukemia and do research in that area of leukemia, childhood leukemia. So, specifically childhood leukemia. So anyway, I was asked that question. I said, no, I wouldn't perform an abortion, but if I had my own practice and a young girl or a mother came to me and a woman came to me and said, I want to have an abortion, I wouldn't be able to perform it, but I wouldn't prevent her from having one, not that we can, not that we would want to. I would just refer to a doctor who could take care of that for her. But this seemed to antagonize them. They didn't like that. This was a medical school that does perform abortions. It's probably part of the training program, I'm not sure. So anyway, long story short, I didn't get in. I didn't attribute it specifically to the abortion issue. It could have been many things. Maybe I didn't handle myself well. Maybe I didn't answer other questions well. I just found it awfully odd that they would spend so much time talking about my faith and my commitment to the church. So I thought, okay, I'm going to apply again. So the second year I did the same thing. I applied again. I went back. Again, the issue came up. I got an interview again, down to the last 400. And again, the issue came up. And before I went for the second time, I told my family and, a couple doctors that wanted to see me become a doctor, that were plugging for me, that what had happened. And they more or less insinuated, not the doctors, they said they were going to make calls and inquire, but the friends and family basically insinuated, just tell them what they want to hear. And once you're in, you decide what you want to do. But I couldn't do it. Second year, interview again, same thing happened. They talked a lot about the faith aspect, and they asked me if I would be willing to participate in performing abortions and perform abortions as a doctor. And once again, I answered the same way. At that moment, I just couldn't do it. I just could not sacrifice what I believed in to be right for me at that time, according to my conscience, for the sake of getting into med school. Now, so was that what my father told me about living a life of integrity? Did that impact on me to the point where I handled myself that way at that moment in time? I don't know. But I can tell you this, that I don't want you to think highly of me because of this experience or what I'm sharing with you today, because I can tell you there are many times in my life, not once, not twice, but many, I did sacrifice my integrity. And at times, they were whoppers. In other words, I really sacrificed my integrity. I'm not going to share with you those moments in my life. This is not the appropriate forum for that. In fact, I don't share them with anybody. But I'm certainly not one that can sit here on my podcast here and brag about myself. I'm just introducing it that way to let you know that, that there are times in our life where we will never sacrifice our integrity. And then there are other times when we are weak or in vulnerable situations where we fall to temptation and we sacrifice our integrity. We give up our values, everything we believe in for the sake of whatever, whether it's pleasure or power or money or esteem or whatever it is. But I really do think that integrity is a critical part of finding happiness in life, which I mentioned before. We've talked about this before in the program. And it's a critical part of living the happy, fulfilled, and treasure-filled life. What is the purpose of life? We've talked about this. And I think that a part of that is living a life of integrity. In the end, when life is over, and we see this more and more as we get older, that in the end, all we have is our legacy. That's it. All the money we may have, or all the fame, or our position in society, or whatever it is, that all eventually just fades away and isn't that important. And of course, when we're dead and gone, it means absolutely nothing. But what does mean something is our legacy. The love we leave behind. The love we leave for others to pass on to other generations. Down and down, on and on the line goes. This is really all we have in the end. And this is what's important. And if we go through life and we try to fake it, we try to fake integrity. We try to fake who we truly are. History will reveal it. We can't get away with it. We might be able to get away with it throughout our lives, but we cannot get away with it forever. Because in the end, as I've talked about before, history is the equalizer. In the end, history reveals, whether it's after we pass away or as we get older, history reveals who we truly are. So as a person of integrity, what we want to do, I think, is one of the things we want to do is always seek justice. We want to live the just and ethical life. What is justice? Many of us will live the just life or the moral life because we live in fear of getting caught of living the unjust life. Some of us will never steal, not because stealing is wrong, and to live with integrity is to be a person of justice, not just to do justice, but to actually, our character is of justice. But some people will live the just life only because they live in fear of being caught or being found out if they live the unjust life. A good question may be to ask ourselves, and I've asked myself this: if I had a magic potion and I could make myself invisible, nobody can see me, all I do is drink this potion, I'm invisible for a week or a day or whatever, how would I live my life? Now, being invisible, you can do just about anything. I mean, you can go into somebody's home and steal their money. You can go into a bank and steal its gold. You can get away with just about anything. So what would we do if we had the ability to live as an invisible man? What we would be willing to do tells us about the kind of integrity we have and our true character, and whether or not we fake it, whether we fake integrity. We live integrity because we're afraid of what would happen to us if we lived the unjust life, or we're afraid that in the afterlife we may go to a place called hell? Or do we live with integrity because we have worked very hard to become a person of great character and great integrity? Politicians are a good example of people who spend their life convincing others that they are someone they aren't. You know, they master, they have the gift of rhetoric, they master it, and they can convince other people that they are somebody they're not. And that's what they do to get votes. And the beautiful thing about democracy is the best system. But the problem with democracy is that it leads people to being someone they truly aren't, or pretending to be someone they aren't. And we end up with a person without integrity. You often hear people say, oh, that politicians, they don't have integrity. Well, they don't have integrity if they're giving you one line of thought that is totally contrary to the same position they held, same issue they held 2 years ago. You see this all the time. You see it in modern day politics with the Trump narrative. You know, they're slamming him and crucifying him for every little thing, and those very things a few years ago under other presidents they were defending. So we see this, you know, in people where they try to fake it, and they master the gift of rhetoric to do this. There's we go back to the Greek philosophers, you know, there were masters who actually taught you, independent of what you truly felt, taught you how to convince assemblies of people or jurors of something that is not true. But you become a master of speech. And many people go through their life, they've mastered this speech, they have this great ability to convince people that they're somebody they're not. And of course, this is a person who lives without integrity. You know, I look at the issues, like I look at what's popular, modern day issues, and you see this. You know, you hear people talking about, okay, what's the fad now? Oh, the fad is let's stand up for those who are mentally ill. So you have all these champions for mental illness, all these people talking about mental illness. They know everything about mental illness, and these poor people with mental illness. And I simply ask the question, would you hire someone with mental illness? Oh, now they back off. Oh, no. No. So are you living the life you're living, holding the opinions you hold because they're politically correct, because they're fashionable, or because they are a true reflection of your character, because you have the gift of integrity? You've heard me speak before of virtues in previous podcasts, especially the ones on leadership and happiness. And virtues, you know, are the qualities that one has who is a person of great character and is of integrity. Virtues like the virtue of wisdom, you know, exercising prudence in in decisions that they make, not making decisions based on what other people think, or what other people want to hear, or what society will reward you for in terms of promotions or things like that. No, the gift of the virtue of wisdom. Another great virtue that is important in the person who is of integrity is the virtue of courage. It takes great courage to be a person of integrity, to be true to yourself and true to the world around you. Sometimes it's very dangerous or risky to stand up in the face of opposition, because when you're a person of integrity, you hold true to those things you truly believe in. And this could put you in a very compromising position. But people of great character and people of integrity have the virtue of courage. And they have the virtue of temperance. They're their own master. They will not be the master of the things of this world. A person who lives with integrity will not bow down to the political will of the bureaucrats or the elite. They will not bow down to the billionaires or millionaires. They will not bow down to their bosses. They will not bow down to whatever is politically correct or current or fashionable. They bow down to nothing. The person of integrity holds true to what they believe in, and they are their own master. They are a light unto themselves, and they don't look elsewhere for any kind of affirmation or the things of this world to bring them a sense of worth. So be true to yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not. Every time we try to be someone we're not, it leads to nothing but lies and deception. You know, you think about it, you know what they say, if you lie once, then you've got to lie 1,000 times because you keep covering up the previous lies. Then you get caught in some lies and you're lying again. And by the end, the story is so cockamamie and twisted, you don't even know what's true. So you got to be true to yourself and avoid being someone you're not. I have great admiration. I grew up with some tough characters in the north end of our city, and some of these guys didn't live in society's standards. They didn't live the life that society would consider, they're a professional, they made all this money, and look at their position, and they wear those nice suits, and the cufflinks are perfect, and everything comes out of their mouth is smooth and beautiful, and these are rough, tough, gruff guys. But these are guys of integrity, especially the ones, even the criminals, who say, I'm a jerk, I did wrong, I made mistakes, I was an idiot, I was selfish. This man who is willing to say those things in all sincerity has more integrity than anyone in high position, because they are true to themselves. And so this is our mission in life, is to be true to ourselves. What's the matter, Daisy? That's my dog crying. She's so tired of me talking. She gets tired of listening to me talk. She doesn't like it when I talk too much. She likes a quiet house. So if you can hear her in the background crying here, she wants me to stop talking, like you do too, probably. You're probably crying out there listening to me talk. But she's a gentle soul, and her name is Daisy. And she likes to nice and peaceful and quiet. So she's not used to me doing podcasts. So let's live according to our true nature. And what is our true nature? We talked about this before when we talked about happiness. Our true nature is to be beings of love. This is what's true. This is being true to ourselves, to be beings of love. And people with great integrity, even the ones that don't live a very good life but admit to it, are the first to admit that they have violated this mandate to live according to their true nature, which is a person of love. Instead, they may have chosen selfishness or whatever. But how refreshing and wonderful it is to be in the company of people who are people of integrity, no matter what their status or who they are in life. Socrates said, the just man does not permit the several elements within him to interfere with one another, or any of them to do the work of others. He sets in order his own inner life, and his own master, and his own law, and and at peace with himself. So let's read that again. The just man does not permit the several elements within him to interfere with one another, or any of them to do the work of others. He sets in order his own inner life, and his own master, and his own law, and at peace with himself. So a person of integrity is not a person who is a slave to anything. A person of integrity will not be persuaded to say certain things at meetings or to hold certain views at work because that's what's fashionable or that's what's mandatory if you want to get a promotion. Viktor Frankl, who was a prisoner in Auschwitz, Jewish fellow who was in the prison camp and saw his family, and of course thousands of people died. Fortunately, he was able to make it through the years in Auschwitz and survived and came out and became a world-renowned psychologist and started a whole new form of therapy. Just like Freud started psychoanalysis, Viktor Frankl started a form of therapy called logotherapy. Logo from the Greek meaning in life. And he wrote a great book, many books, but the one I really like is Man's Search for Meaning. And he said that in the concentration camps, it was when you were left with nothing, when death was at the doorstep. You could have been called next to go into the gas chamber. And you were starving and had no food except maybe a little piece of bread. It was then that the true nature and character of man showed. It was then that you couldn't fake it anymore. You couldn't pretend to be someone you are not. You couldn't convince others by preaching it that you're this virtuous so-and-so. Because it was at those moments that your true character came out. And people of great integrity, it showed. So I guess the challenge here is to always be who we truly are, to be the person we truly are, to be a person of integrity by always being true to ourselves and always working at it. It's not easy. It's very difficult to be a person of integrity. It's like anything else. It's like when we talked about happiness. To achieve happiness is not easy. It's hard work. Plato said, "There is nothing so delightful as the hearing or the speaking of truth. For this reason, there is no conversation so agreeable as that of the man of integrity, who hears without any intention to betray and speaks without any intention to deceive." Oh, beautiful words from Plato. Let's listen to that again. There is nothing so delightful as the hearing or the speaking of truth. For this reason, there is no conversation so agreeable as that of the man of integrity, who hears without any intention to betray and speaks without any intention to deceive. Oh, what a joy it is, I say, to live in the company or be in the company of such people. And I think that's why I love being with my father all the time, because he was that kind of man. So we are challenged in life to be the person we say we are and not to be someone other than what we try to convince people we are. We are challenged to live according to our values in big situations and small situations. In big events and small events, always hold true to what you truly believe is truth. We are challenged to constantly work at the virtues, to become that virtuous person, so that we are a person of integrity. No matter what our situation in life, no matter what the consequences may be for being true to ourselves and true to what we believe in, we have to do it. Because if we don't, we won't be happy. We won't be content. And living a life of with a mask, a false life, only leads to unhappiness, and in the end, leaves behind a legacy that is not admirable. We want people to rejoice in the legacy we leave behind. We want people to say of us, that was a person of integrity. Because nobody's going to talk about, how much money we accumulated or how many companies we owned. As admirable as that is, that's not what is at the center of our existence. That is not what we leave behind. We leave behind love, and that love is passed on to others. I want to end today with a reading from Romans in the New Testament. More than that, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Well, I hope you liked our podcast today on integrity, and I invite you to join us next time as well. And remember, you can always email us to give us your opinion on this at drdoctorpodcast@yahoo.com. That's drdrpodcast@yahoo.com. And if you'd like a digital copy of the book, The History of Time from the Big Bang to the Present, write us at that same email. And I'm wishing you all a very happy day, happy week, and we meet again at our next podcast. Thank you very much.